pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call noting everyone is present. We'll start right off. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of January 10th, 2022 as presented.
So move.
Second.
Okay, Flores?
Yes.
Belt?
Yes.
Mazurk?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Pappas?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the February 2022 expenses as presented.
So move. Second.
Okay, Belt?
Yes.
Mazurk?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Pappas?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
And Flores?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Thank you. Balance in the Super Now account at First Community at the end of January was $378,147.20. We had outstanding checks totaling $19,380.20. There's some payroll expense from January carried over of $11,696, giving the adjusted bank balance at $347,166.04. Lunch program balance was $1193.04. Imprest fund, $5,000, giving the total balance at $353,359.08. Investment balances were $11,781,800.73, leaving the balance of all funds as of January 31, $12,135,159.81. January receipts totaled $1,348,805.86. Expenses were $1,260,601.21. The individual fund balances: education fund $4,590,366.29, building fund $2,048,751.52, bond and interest minus $41,864.24, transportation $2,110,392.60, IMRF $206,630.59, working cash fund $2,596,627.63, port fund $110,782.78, and life safety $513,472.64. January interest at First Community was $198.37. Had quite a few distributions from the state in January. State aid $211,938. IEEA SOIC $101,344. Driver's education $2,037.56. Title IV $1,092. Title II $22,000 even. Title I $31,579. Special milk $32.33. State free lunch $227.32. School lunch program $15,737.28. Regular transportation $48,152.43. Digital equity grant $73,352. Special ed private facility $20,952.42. Special ed transportation $80,836.16. And special ed orphanage $14,851.14. And we had one last tax distribution of $135,314.27. Fund balances are in the packet.
Any questions for Mr. Peters?
Yeah, I do have a question. I've asked this a couple of board meetings back, and I know we got other things on the agenda, but who's investing our school resources, our school funds? Who's investing them? Is it the district? Is it an accounting firm? Or is it a bank? I've been asking now for 3 months, and I think it's 3. I'm just curious. Who's actually investing our
As far as who specifically, like what goes, who opens a CD or?
Yeah, who's investing this? Who's guiding us as a district? And I'll explain the reason why I'm asking this. I'm not accusing nobody of nothing, I just want, because we're asking in the future for a referendum. But here's the question, I want to know who's investing this money. I still haven't got it, maybe you guys can come up and maybe send me information or something. I still haven't got that information, I've asked for it for now.
I'm unclear for when we have asked this, because I would have made sure that we were doing that. Are you asking who makes the decisions with where money goes?
Is it the
and
firm,
what?
the district, the superintendent?
Okay.
Who decides where it's going to be invested in?
So I can answer that question. That is one of the roles of the superintendent. So over the last month, I actually just talked to Mike about this as well. We're going back and getting the actual rates that are in place here. And so one of the things I was going to add to my report, but I'll tell you guys right now, that top, I made many phone calls to many banks just to find out what rates are at right now. The best rate I got on a new account was 0.02, not 0.2, 0.02. So it's not like I could take that money at any point in time now, shift it somewhere else, and make a better interest rate. We've reached out to the banks we currently have, and those are the best rates we have. So if you look at our money market accounts, the best rate we have right now is for First Community at that 0.6 and the 0.47. So the top Midland States Bank, which is 0.2, that 2.1 over the next month is going to be reinvested into our money market account at First National to get a better rate. Along with that, we have our first substantial payment to the HVAC, which will be coming out of that fund right there. In terms of the next two down bottom, because those have maturity dates, we're unable to touch those until those maturity dates, otherwise we pay penalties, so I can't touch those two accounts. However, in August, we'll be addressing those. First Community, like I said, that's the best rate I've found is 0.6. That is far and above what we've ever had. And then the other one is actually an investment firm. Thank you, Illinois Liquid School Asset Fund. And that rate, they just gave us their year after having our money when Mr. Cox invested in them. That's actually the growth we got over the last year. Okay. So in regards of who does that investment, it's myself. And obviously Marla does the transfer of funds for me once we figure out where we want to go with it.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Peters? All right, then I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Missouri,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so for the public comment portion, a reminder, if you have not done this before, we have 3 minutes. It's going to be set on the timer. When the timer ends, then that is your time, okay? First person will be Carla Weissel.
Carla Weissel, Beecher, Illinois. The previous board was called out for the legal bills, even though much of the legal bills was incurred due to the PAC complaint, which included Pappas, Herman, and Bell. Pappas was specifically quoted in the local paper stating, quote, "Our whole entire year with Izzo last year was $2,800. And that was with all the stuff that happened with the teacher," unquote. Despite being worded so insensitively and unprofessionally by Pappas, the $2,800 figure was completely inaccurate. The article, while quoting Pappas, was so misrepresentative that the law firm Delgado LLC actually rebutted that article, but the rebuttal never got printed. Just to reiterate, the PAC complaint was completely dropped, except that the then President Herman did not read the public comments at one of the meetings. According to my recent FOIA legal bills request from April 29, 2021 through January 9, 2022, since the current board abruptly changed law firms at the reorganization meeting with the new board members, having little of the background information available, the legal bills have been $11,707. That would be before the latest change in mitigation discussions and attendance at tonight's meeting. Current board members Pappas, Herman, Pallmeyer, Belt, and Missouri voted for this abrupt change in law firms. The hourly rate is now 20% higher at $230 per hour with the current law firm, Hauser, Izzo, Petrarca, Gleason, and Stillman LLC. Legal contracts from President Pappas alone added up to $726. There were other bills who did not have a name attached to them, which could have been President Pappas's. Among other legally requested information, President Pappas spent district money to review draft board conduct statements, public comment procedures, and on November 19, 2021, President Pappas wasted $92 of our taxpayer money regarding, quote, public comment issues, unquote. To summarize, after that incident by President Pappas on November 2nd, 2021 at the Facilities Committee meeting, where President Pappas paused me for almost 10 minutes during my public comment to try to find a policy that did not exist to see if she could stop me from continuing to speak, President Pappas contacted the district lawyers herself on November 19th, 2021 regarding, quote, public comment issues, unquote. President Pappas, stop wasting our taxpayer money at $230 per hour. In the previous words of Ashley Bell, the district lawyers, quote, are not to be used as personal lawyers anymore. I don't know about you, but I'm done, quote, footing the bill, unquote. Additionally, regarding the legal bills, the district spent $3,105 for work on the HVAC contract with GRP. I consider that a waste of money since all sitting board members, except Mr. Hernandez, rejected the law firm's advice anyway on legislation related to energy savings and voted for the contract. When GRP actually FOIA'd the district...
Thank you. The next person to speak is Melanie Brennensall.
Melanie Brennenstall, 202 Miller Street. There is no reason for our kids to ever be masked again without the choice. With Pritzker lifting mask mandates for basically all public spaces except school, it should be abundantly clear that masks in schools have less to do with kids' safety and more with the politics that have accompanied this pandemic. COVID is something we will be living with, similar to the flu, for the foreseeable future. It's time we treated it accordingly. Now I'd like to turn the issue to masking on buses. We were told this was a federal mandate. That is not the case because school buses do not fall into that category. When I asked, I was then told it's a board vote because it was included in the July reopening plan. I went back and listened to July's meeting and read the July and August meeting minutes, and there's no vote on that plan. In fact, Dr. Gaham, you stated at the July meeting that masking on buses is a hard line because it is state law and a CDC mandate. However, it has never been a state law and does not apply to buses, the CDC mandate that is. Furthermore, before a state mask mandate, Dr. Gaham polled parents and then decided for the district. So again, why all of a sudden is this a board vote? One, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, this whole mask thing. Kids can sit together at school, but now we're not gonna have it on the bus. That's where the COVID's gonna attack them? In what world does that sound reasonable to any of you? Does that make any sense? When did it become your responsibility to decide what medical measures are applicable for my child? My opinion and the opinions of all parents and taxpayers in this district matter. You may be serving on our school board, but don't forget who put you there and who you're serving. I'm not asking people to stop wearing masks if they feel more comfortable doing so. I'm asking for you to afford me the same right to choose what's right for my family. And one last thing. After and during several remote days, I would urge the board to rethink these school days for next year. They are hard on teachers and students and are doing a disservice to both. I believe because they count as a school day and don't need to be made up, they could be overused in the future. Please consider using our emergency days off first and remote days if or when those run out. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ashley, you know who you are? I can't say that last name, so.
Last name, come on.
Thank you.
Ashley Flickling, 1586 Foxhound Trail.
Oops.
First, I wanted to thank the board for their swift action to reinstate the mask optional policy to our schools. I know there are several districts around the state that haven't, and I know we all have different opinions on the issue, but the fact that you took the opportunity to revert back to what the community and parents preferred is greatly appreciated. However, what I see on the agenda for tonight's meeting is to vote on to reinstate masking requirements, which I believe would be in the event that the TRO ruling is overturned. I do not understand why we want to continue to mask our children. The governor announced last week that all mandates will be dropped by February 28th.
Oh, I don't, that is not you. Hold on.
Reset.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I really apologize. Okay. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. The governor announced last week that all mandates will be dropped by February 28th, with the exception of schools, because they have hundreds of people in and out every day. If this doesn't show you that this is strictly a power flex, I don't know what will. Grocery stores, gyms, office buildings, and almost anywhere we go throughout the week have hundreds of people going in and out. So why are schools any different? Because if he controls our children, he controls us. This is so far past being a public health issue, it's pathetic. Children have the greatest ability to recover from the virus, so why do we keep forcing them to bear this burden? Because the governor said so. I understand that our district is small and we don't want to be on the wrong side of legal action, but I'm going to challenge you on that, because just because something is required or mandated or a law does not mean that it is right. The people who turned in Anne Frake and her family, they were following the law. And at what point do we stand up? 145 school districts challenged the governor and won, and we are not alone, and we are not wrong. These mandates are unlawful and violating our children's rights and our rights as their parents. If this were still a legitimate public health issue, we wouldn't be only one of 9 states with mandates still in place. When we first challenged the mask mandate in August, we were told that the school had to comply with ISB and the IDPH. But they too have been challenged as to the authority they have to dole out the consequences they threaten. When a government entity takes away a right, it does not give it back. Why are we so willing to let them take away our parental rights to make those decisions for our children instead of us? Maybe it's my point of view, being the wife of a combat vet, but I can't just sit back and watch this happen to our rights without speaking out.
Thank you. Oh, said it. Thank you. Melissa Ryberg.
Hi, Melissa Ryberg, Keith Ball Legal Link. I don't think I need to know that. I didn't prepare a nice speech like those two ladies did, and they pretty much hit a lot of good points, so I'm going to try not to duplicate those. I just want to point out that we all use the same pen. So I don't know why we care about masks, but hand sanitizing doesn't care. We just all use the same things, which doesn't really make sense to me. Same thing with the state loosening up, and the kids are the only ones punished for some reason. You guys claim to care about mental health, but clearly no one knows the distress these kids are under with these masks. My son, for instance, he's a facial shower, so when he gets upset about things, he goes like this. And that means he's about to cry. But if he's got a mask on, you can't see that. So you don't know that he's upset. So don't tell me you're concerned about kids' health if it's only about the mask. There's more to it. I have a daughter who's about to enter the school system. I'm strongly considering not doing it. If anyone's scared of my 3-year-old, I think they have bigger issues. So that's how I feel about that. My son had a basketball game Friday here at the school. It was a beautiful thing. Most of the people walked in without masks. It was awesome. There were a couple people there with masks. You know where they sat? With the unmasked. And if they didn't, they kept their distance, because that's how it should be. Everyone should keep their own decision. You want to wear one? Cool, I support you. If you don't, that's fine. But let people make their own choices. Let these kids run without having something strapped to their face, or I challenge you all to do the same. The emotional delay that it's putting on these kids, they can't read things, they can't do things, it's just got to end. I can't support this. I will support whatever these kids want to do if you guys continue to force these masks to be worn. And I do think that it should be the parents' decision and nobody else's. That's all I got.
Thank you. Right. Sue Sawinski. Come on up.
Sawinski, 1699 Windscape Lane. Just wanted to thank everyone involved in making the decision to let our parents and our kids make the choice to attend school without a mask. We all know it is our responsibility to have our kids follow the rules and respect them, and the adults enforcing them. It is also our responsibility as parents to explain to our kids as to why these rules are in place and why we must follow them. Depending on your decision or vote tonight in regards to making masks optional, it is my job as a parent to understand them also. So I'm now asking you as adults, educators, and parents for suggestions on how I'm going to explain to my kids that last week, this current week, COVID was a lesser concern. My hands are shaking. But possibly not in the future. So let's be honest, call a spade, stop putting the facade of COVID when it truly comes down to being a legal and financial battle. Is this truly just a decision that revolves around legal ramifications with state mandates? The majority of your mask optional surveys show that people are in favor of having mask optional. Isn't it our jobs as parents and your duties as board members and school staff to fight for what is best for our kids and our community? Give me one reason on why we can't and have not fought for clearly what our parents are in favor of in regards to having masks optional. We celebrated last week as parents that our children were allowed to see smiles on their friends and their teachers at school. Not citing studies or facts, as I'm pretty sure everyone is aware of the mental effects that masking, social distancing, quarantining has had on our families and daily life. I urge to take a stance for our community no matter what the state ruling outcome is. Because as a parent, I'm standing up for my kids today and going forward against the tyranny of the governor's decision. To date, over 500 schools are mask optional, so that clearly shows that I'm not the only one in this fight. That legal representation has been offered to parents just like me to take a stand against the state's governor's unethical and immoral mandates. Because tonight, I'm going to be the one sitting with my kids and truly trying to explain the absurdity of why they have to wear masks in school, but not anywhere else in the state at the end of the month. I said, so again, please try to help me understand the whole concept of being in close contact with no masks in school currently, but get on the bus with a mask. Is this due to COVID or legal reasons? That even my 6-year-old can see how ridiculous that is, but you guys can't. And one last thing, district website, I don't check it daily, but when I do, it's not up to date on certain issues, so didn't know if we could update that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Kelly, and I can't tell what your last name is, I'm sorry. It wasn't clear.
Kelly Ben, 2940 West Indiana Avenue. Martin Luther King, one has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. First of all, the definition of a law has to go through the Congress and then be signed. We are talking about a mandate, which has been considered illegal by the first judge and hopefully will stand up with the next ones. It is our responsibility as parents to teach our kids, to raise them to be adults. We incorporate the schools to help do that. Are we raising people to be adults? Are we teaching them to be afraid, to not take chances, to not work hard, to get what is deserved of them? Will they get sick? Yes. My children have been sick. My children have been in the hospital for 9 weeks straight. They can't be afraid to live. We can't be afraid to live. The people who have and want to wear masks, yay, go ahead. That's absolutely fabulous. But please, don't discriminate. Don't be unjust with parents who want to make the decisions, parents who want their children to grow up to be wonderful, flourishing adults. Secondly, it is immoral, I don't care who you are, to mandate that anyone put anything in their bodies. The teachers, the office staff, the entire staff of Beecher should have medical freedom to make their own choices on what goes in their bodies. If they want the vaccine, that's their responsibility, that's their business. If they don't want the vaccine, that's their responsibility, their business. We have no right to tell them what to do, just like you guys have no right to tell me what to put in my body. Please consider that. I know that most of us are here talking about the children, but the teachers and the staff deserve our respect, They are here 10, 15 hours a day, working hard for our children. And we have no right to put something in their body. Yay, if they want to put it in their body, I believe it's a responsibility for them, but we can't force them.
Thank you. Okay. Todd Gregory.
I will cede my 3 minutes to her. She was in the middle of a sentence.
You can't donate time to someone. If she had written something down, you could read a speech by her. I'm sorry. That's how public comment in OMA goes.
Really?
If you'd like her to hand you her finishing statement,
Yeah.
please read it for her.
Okay.
Could you just
I'll stand up, why not?
and state your name and where you live, please?
Todd Gregory, 2940 Indiana. I'd like to know first, has the board ever taken a vote on the mask mandates or any of these other school policies regarding vaccines, etc.? Was this a unilateral decision made by Superintendent Gaham?
You can ask the questions and then we will.
And you will answer
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
okay. I have discussed through emails, et cetera, with Dr. Gaham that these are not laws, these are mandates, emergency mandates that seem to have run out long ago. This has been upheld by other judges throughout the state. I have tried to provide evidence that the masks do not stop transmission of any disease or any virus, at any rate. Apparently that's what we are afraid of, is viral transmission. They don't do that. They have been shown to adversely affect the emotional health of all of our children. Again, well documented. And when I brought these things up to Dr. Gaham, he's essentially said, I'm just following orders. So I'd like to know if he's making these decisions, who voted him into the board. You are the elected members of this board. What is your vote on these things, or is the decision just his to make? Who makes these decisions? How can we change them? Apparently, again, I was told that no science, no evidence, no data points are even relevant in these decisions. It's just whatever the governor decides to say, and what he says has been illegal thus far. The recent temporary restraining order is proof of that. So, let's have some of these questions answered. I'd also love to know, if we are going to vote on this tonight, I'd love to know how everyone here votes on these things. If there isn't a vote, why isn't it? Why is a decision just made by one person or someone else? Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Pena.
I'm Kim Pena. I'm at 30752 South Clemens. First, I'd like to say that I am very glad that masks are on hold right now, and I'm really hoping, like many others, that this is not going to go back to masking our children. As some others have commented, and I've addressed the board in the past, that the masks and sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but the masks have pores in them. And the masks that we wear, whether they're surgical masks or treatment masks or a homemade mask, will not and will they never protect against a virus. That is medically, that is scientific. The only mask that's going to give us any kind of help against a virus is a fit tested N95, not just slapping one on, but it has to be fit tested. So we already know that these masks are security blankets. And putting these masks on children, I don't know how many of you, and I know a lot of you working in the school are with children. I have a child in the junior high. I have a child in the high school. My high school student has a medical exemption from his doctor, and he's had it for several months. My daughter was coming home with headaches all the time, and that was with the thinnest mask we could find. So now, this week, she hasn't complained one time of a headache. And I don't know how many times you talk to these students, but so many of them are saying, go without a mask? Someone will see my face. They have such anxiety around other people seeing their faces. That is so sad what we've done to the mental health of these children. I think the survey that was put out was so poorly worded. It was either mask required or mask recommended. What happened to mask required or masks optional? But it was like, either way, you were guiding people into saying we need to have masks. And as far as the masks go on the buses, like someone else said, where is that a federal law of any sort of federal mandate? So as far as federal things, there's federal laws against immigration. And we don't even enforce that in the state or locally, nor can they. There's also federal laws on marijuana. Marijuana is not legal federally, but in the state, we call it adult use. So again, why is it so important that we have some sort of mask mandate that you're trying to say works on a bus?
Thank you. That is all the public comment. We will be talking about these as we go through the items under new business. Something I do want to say is just all of us are up here because we want to help our schools, help our children, help our teachers. Sometimes a positive presumption goes a long way, as I'm having that about you because you guys are here because you care. We are here to help the kids, okay? I spend my life with kids. I don't want to cause any damage or anything. This has been unprecedented times, as we all know. It has been, learning things as we go and trying to figure out what the guidance is and everything like that. When these were first put in, this is what we had to follow as legality comes through, as people are able to interpret what is going on and things like that. As you all know, we have been open doors. We have been here to discuss this. We want to make the right decisions for our entire community, and we always care. So just please know that's why we're here. That's why if I don't get reelected, I don't care. I know that I'm doing the best I absolutely can, okay? So we will get there and we'll talk about all those, so I hope that you guys stay to listen to that and hear the rest of it. We will be voting tonight. Okay, staff reports. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you. I've been asked to briefly state what I do or what we do here for Black History Month. Besides our curriculum, in terms of, just our everyday, if it's social studies, if it's current events, if it would be the Civil War, if it would be civil rights, it's just that's one of the common, that will never change unless the curriculum changes for Illinois or national curriculum. But individually at our school, I've asked our African-American students, male and female, to read the pledge in the morning and say a quote. I selected some quotes from Maya Angelou and Dr. Martin Luther King. So they read the pledge, or recite the Pledge of Allegiance, read a quote, and then I've asked our staff, not every day, because I know it won't work, but if they could pick and choose some of the quotes that our students read, if they could just talk to the kids about their experience, or what's it mean to everybody, to get away from some of the misconceptions, ignorance, or whatever we're going to call some of the beliefs that we're trying to move forward. So those are a couple of things. And Mrs. Plons wrote a section in my board report. We've got new encyclopedias. She's got some books up on the wall, on the bookshelves. She's done a pretty nice job of trying to get people in here to utilize some of our new books that we have purchased. A couple other points I'd just like to make out of the report. I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Compton for being selected Female Sports Citizen of the Year by the Daily Journal. I thought that was a pretty big accomplishment. Rich Wistocki, thank you for going to the social media presentation, Mr. Missouri. I thought he did a fantastic job. I thought our kids did a fantastic job. For the most part, accepting. They probably don't want to hear about social media and some of the things that he was talking about, but I think they were receptive to his presentation. Very well-known, well-renowned cyber strategist, I guess, for maybe a lack of a better word. The last thing, just briefly, the SRO. The SRO the SRO and I talked about a couple things, and one of the things that we implemented last week was basically self-defense, just a basic level 1 self-defense class for senior girls. We're looking to do that maybe for junior girls, except we just think senior girls are getting ready to go out in society, so we had to get consent, and really, again, just basics, how to get to a base, wrist locks, how to, if you're controlled, how to just, again, move out, move around, do some things. It's not like we were doing full-scale jujitsu like Mr. Hernandez probably could show right now. We weren't doing that. We didn't want to hurt anybody. But we just, again, just the basic stuff of just feeling comfortable about your body and your balance. We thought it was very, very beneficial. Feedback was phenomenal, and only one person kind of got shoulder situation when she rolled over.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
Last time we had heard about in the thing, your board report, last time we had heard about wrestling, we were talking about a co-op with Grant Park, but now I'm seeing a petition around town about Peatone. Just got questions. I mean, there's one going around town that try to get people to sign to join with Peatone, but I thought they originally requested Grant Park.
I believe, yeah, they did originally. Last time I knew, Mr. Ogden said that the coach has not been back in touch with Mr. Ogden or hasn't made a commitment.
Okay.
That's all I know. So I don't know where we are with wrestling.
So it's Mr. Ogden reached out to them?
He did.
To Peatone?
Yeah, Peatone.
I don't know anything about Peatone. This is the first time I've heard of anything about Peatone. I know Grant Park. I know we had some discussions with one of the individual that I think spoke here during the summer. He and his son. He was at the junior high. But I know nothing about Peatone. He's never said anything to me about Peatone.
So it does say from Bob that he's contacted them about a possible co-op?
Yeah,
for Peatone. Okay, so for Peatone, he has. I talked to Bob about it too. But the person that said that they would coach has not responded to his calls.
Yeah, the SRO is doing a great job.
He likes wrestling as well. And that's what started it, just talking about the base and with girls and just getting from the ground up. That was our first step. I mean, it was really good. So I took some things back to my junior daughter too. So it was good.
Great.
So we'll see.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes.
On your volunteer coach request, do you
Correct.
have the pending documentation?
No. He's going to get, if you guys approve it, he's going to get it tomorrow from Mr. Ogden. I believe Mr. Du Bois has given Mr. Gazzillo that information because that starts like pretty soon.
Well, we should have it prior to a vote.
Correct.
Thank you.
Oh, prior to a vote?
Prior to approval, yes.
Oh, so I thought we had to get the approval first before we got the paperwork. That's the way
Because
I-
on the junior high, there's a volunteer, and then we have his documentation attached.
Oh,
That's
I guess,
I think you were referring to a resume, he's referring to fingerprinting.
yes.
You guys are saying the same thing, but mean different things.
I just thought we had to get approval before I gave any paperwork to anybody to even start the process. I didn't want to give people paperwork if it was a no. That was my understanding.
You are correct, what she's asking for is if we have a resume or
I do not.
any form of, that's what
Nope,
she's asking for.
I do not.
Okay, because...
Bob might, I do not though.
Well, because on the junior high report, there is a resume attached for a coach. You're asking for a volunteer coach for the high school, but there's nothing attached. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I have one for the junior high, but nothing for the high school.
Okay,
Have we
I'll
had
talk to the
volunteer
athletic director
coach
and get those
resumes in the
resumes.
past?
I'm
Have
sorry?
we gotten resumes from volunteers before?
Maybe.
I just want to make sure we're following precedents.
But
I don't
if-
Well,
remember.
we
Yeah,
are.
I
Well, we
mean-
do have one because one's a parent coach for the junior high.
We absolutely do.
So,
I'm
yes.
just asking if in the past, we've had volunteers before, but if we
Maybe,
had needed
sure.
that.
No problem.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Dr. Gaham, do you want to go now, or do you want to?
I will go whenever the president would like me to go.
I would love you to go now, Dr. Gaham.
All right, so in terms of my report, you guys got it. Some things that weren't on the report to make sure you guys keep abreast of what's going on. GRP did contact me. I said it earlier in this meeting. There's a substantial bill that'll be on the March expenditures. That is for the HVAC system. Of that, $600,000 will be submitted to ESSER 3 because that is part of our ESSER 3 expenditures. So we hope to have that back by the end of the year. However, there's already going to be a $1.7 million expense on the O&M, which leads me to the second point. My hope is to have the amended budget first previewed to you next month. That is mainly because of the ESSER 3 money being on this year's items, and then the addition of the HVAC. We do need to make an amended budget, so I'll let you guys know. I did once again provide you the bar graph. You'll see on all of our expenditures we're below 66%. We're 8 months through the fiscal year, so that's about where we should be. We had our pre-bid meeting on Wednesday. Mr. Snula had 4 flooring groups. We're going to have that opening on this Wednesday for replacing the tile. And then we submitted our lunch bid to the states for the state review last week. We haven't heard anything back from Ms. Smith, but we're hoping to get that out to bid next month. So. Besides that, is there anything else inside of my report you would like questions on?
On your committee for your referendum, are you going to post those dates when they meet, and are they going to post the names of who's on that referendum committee?
So they're actually going to be at the first open house. The first open house is going to be the 28th. We're going to put it on the district calendar. It's going to be held at 5 o'clock in the den. So it's Monday the 28th. So I'll have as many many of those members as I can there, and whoever's not there, I'll make sure that they are acknowledged for their work so far.
Great. All right. Any questions for Dr. Gaham? All right, thank you. Mrs. Black.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to make mention of some of the things in my board report, specifically some of the student highlights. On Friday, we had our second PBIS school-wide celebration, and we invited Tim Hanning, I think his name was, from the Pro Kids Show. So he did 2 different assemblies, and in those assemblies, he did some magic, which all the kids liked. I wasn't sure how the 5th graders were going to like the magic, but they loved it. And he had a really great message about being respectful, making good choices, just kind of everything that goes along with PBIS. So that was a really fun show. And I'm still trying to get some pictures from teachers. I know a lot of teachers have pictures to post on Facebook. The camera on my phone doesn't work, so I couldn't take it. So we had our Valentine's parties today. I stopped by all the parties. The kids were passing out their Valentines and playing games. It was really fun, as always. Classroom parties are for all the students. And last week, both our kindergarten class and our first grade class had special celebrations. Our kindergartners celebrate the 100 days of school, and they dress up like 100-year-old people, which is always very cute. Not to be less cute than the next day, which is our first graders. They celebrate the 101st day of school, and they're all dressed up like Dalmatians and puppies, and there was lots of counting to hundreds and lots of things happening at our school last week.
Great. And you had said something about Black History Month activities in your report. I couldn't click, but because it's a PDF, it's totally fine.
No, I realized I submitted that without the link. However, I did email it to all parents, and it will be on Facebook today.
Okay.
So basically, it's just a breakdown of what the different grade levels do. Clearly, at our school, the difference between kindergarten and 5th grade, and the different activities that we do is fast. But some of our younger grades do watch like short movies and have discussions. Kindergarten makes like an ABC book of Black History Month. Our 5th graders, as expected, dive a little bit more deeper, do a little bit more reading about different people and history, and have discussions and things like that. So there's information that I've shared with all the parents.
Great. Thank you.
Do we have any plans where you're putting forward for the SRO officer? Because I know it says deliver truancy letters, help during drop-off and pickup, and then pretty much lunch monitoring.
Okay, he and I are working on looking at similar lessons that were done last year And he's kind of going through those and deciding if that is like the same lesson, because the curriculum that we have had a lot of different lessons for each grade level. So I kind of shared with him what we did last year, and he's going through and deciding if that's the lesson he wants to do, or if he wants to look at some of those other lessons. But yeah, we've definitely had those conversations, and that is in the works for him to come visit classrooms.
Any other questions for Mrs. Black? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Kwasny? Where were you? Oh, there you go.
Hi. Good evening. To start off, I wanted to talk about what we did for Black History Month at the junior high. In honor of Black History Month, we learned about influential African Americans every morning through our morning announcements. Some of the different individuals we highlighted were Jackie Robinson, Lee Armstrong, and Ruby Bridges. In all the social studies classes, they also worked on different projects and things. They did read-alouds, videos, quotes, and projects as well. As I mentioned, in 6th grade, they did daily spotlight lessons. In 7th grade, they did an MLK Jr. biography project. And in 8th grade, they're working on research projects as we speak. So that's how we were honoring Black History Month. I also wanted to mention a couple other things that are going on. For our student council, they just went to the Hope Center for a field trip, and they assembled care packages for individuals who have been diagnosed with cancer. And it was a really meaningful experience for the kids. They came back and they kept talking about everything that they were doing. They really loved making the blankets, so I thought that was really a great experience for them. And they also got treated to a pizza lunch afterwards, which of course they loved. And then this Friday, we're having a select girls in our 8th grade class participate in an Argonne National Laboratory Virtual Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. And that's going to be really cool. I wish they could go, but they're only offering virtual experience this year, so hopefully next year they'll let us attend. But the girls are going to be going through the virtual experience in the library, and they're going to still be able to have that hands-on approach because they mail all the supplies that they need to their homes. They bring them to school, and then they're kind of led through the virtual experience by the people at the laboratory, and then they do breakout sessions where they get to have a mentor to talk to the girls and then kind of instruct them on what to do for the various STEM activities. So that's going to be this Friday. So that's going to be really nice. And then they'll have a pizza lunch also. So of course, they're very pumped about that.
Awesome.
Did anybody have any questions?
I have the same question. SRO doing anything with traffic?
Traffic a little bit. I would like him to do more, but I know he's between the 3 buildings. What he's been doing mostly at our building is, so far, is pushing into the lunchrooms to kind of talk to the kids, and then during passing periods and things. He has helped us out with a few specific incidences with things that I thought were really great. Today, we talked about a program called Too Good for Drugs. It's a seminar and a curriculum that he was asking about attending. If he does end up attending, that would be great for him to push into our health classes to talk to the kids about this, the drug curriculum. So those are a couple of the different things in the works currently.
That would be the hope, because like we said, even if we didn't have an SRO, the police department said they would do traffic. They would, I don't want to be paying a teacher's salary for a lunch aide and a traffic cop. He needs to be doing curriculum and using him as we need.
Correct. He is also helping out with the truancy letters, going to different homes, and those have started to accumulate, so that's been helpful. He's been great about going there as well, but you're right, to push into the classrooms would be utilizing him to the fullest.
So the soccer has been much anticipated, and thanks to COVID, it got pushed off and pushed off. And someone had asked me, and I don't remember, and maybe even, I don't know if you know or Mr. Meyer would remember, this was a 7th and 8th grade activity, but for the volleyball or whatever, 6th graders were able to try out. Are 6th graders able to try out for this or no?
I thought it was just for 7th and 8th.
Just 7th and 8th.
That was last year, that was last year's whatever covenant, what they wanted was just 7th and 8th.
Okay,
Now,
just
that may have
to
changed.
clarify.
I don't know.
No, that's what I didn't, and then I was like, I just wanted to clarify. Okay.
I will get back to you just to confirm. I'll talk to our AD, Brandon Du Bois, and let you know for sure, but I'm almost positive it's 7th and 8th for COVID.
Okay, cool. All right, thank
Do you have any PTO updates? What's going on with the junior high? And
So we had a PTO meeting right before this, and kind of the new update is that we were talking about dances. So we were never not going to have any dances, we were just kind of seeing how everything would go. And we talked about maybe having a Valentine's Day dance. The cases went up in January, and now things are, with not having masks this past week and not seeing more cases arise. And then also, just kind of in general, just kind of wanting to, the cases lately have been lower, so we want to have a dance, basically. And we were thinking spring, like spring before spring break, because it was too late at that point to have a dance, because, like I said, the cases were up in January, and then we're like, is this the right time? And then by the time we're like, okay, the cases went down, then there was no time to plan the dance for February, because we were running out of time, and Valentine's Day is today. So we're going to try to do a spring dance. We will be doing a spring dance. The PTA will be helping us with that, of course, and then we don't have an exact date nailed down yet.
Okay.
Great, so we're excited. We wanted to have one, we're waiting, kind of holding off, and so we definitely want to have that for the kids for 6th through 8th graders, so everybody will be included for those who want to participate.
Thank you.
And there's the date for the 8th grade graduation. That's went out. So I don't know if anyone, if you don't have your high kid,
Yeah,
we
that
have
went
that
out.
where it's scheduled and happening.
What date is
And
that?
It is Tuesday, the 27th, thank you.
And then,
24th.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of numbers.
Wait, the 24th?
Yeah, it did go out.
24th?
yeah, your parents had to fill out.
I don't have, I don't.
That's why I wanted to make it so that you didn't have your high kid.
Will that take place at the high school then?
It's May 24th.
Okay.
All right.
And then the boat tour,
Oh, they're gonna do the boat trip?
yes, the
Awesome.
boat trip is gonna be on May 13th.
Okay. Great. All right, any other questions for Dr. Kwasny?
But to go back to Ashley's statement real quick, the SRO, you guys gotta give him time, man. He's only been in the school about a month and a half, but he's already taken a lot of progressive steps forward, so let's not assume he's just doing
Yeah.
traffic.
And you guys are our eyes and ears too. So if you guys, want to report anything that's going on or whatever, during the monthly meeting, that would be awesome. Just so that we are, keeping up with what's going on with that.
I will say anything that we've asked them to help us out with, they're doing has been more than,
Awesome.
more than helpful.
Okay. Great, thank you so much. All right. One second. Okay.
Yeah, just good for me.
Moving on to the TRO mitigations, is that correct? Let me make sure.
Yeah, old business.
Wait a minute. Find my agenda.
There's no numbers.
Right? Well, anybody have old business? No? Nothing there. Okay. So for the TRO mitigations, Mr. Izzo is with us tonight, as clearly there's a lot of legality that has to do with all of this, so we want to make sure that we're following, as you guys know, that it takes, a legal degree sometimes. So could you explain if there's been any update with the appeal or where we're currently at?
All right. There hasn't been any other court orders since February 4th, so let me just explain what happened and what the effect of that is. It was a temporary order, temporary restraining order, and that's been appealed by the governor and the state, so that's in front of the 4th District Appellate Court. They're going to rule on it within a few days, one way or the other. Their ruling could go different ways, so we have to see what exactly they say. But I want everybody to understand what the effect of where we are right now is, because it was a trial court judge, a circuit court judge in Sangamon County. There were 146 school districts in front of her that were student plaintiffs. There were a few more where there were just staff members, so there was a total of 170 school districts in that lawsuit. But there was the governor and the state officials. So what she ruled was, and she didn't rule on all of the issues, but she ruled on the validity of at least the initial ruling on the 3 particular COVID rules that were in front of her. One had to do with the requirement of masking by students and teachers. One had to do with the requirement of testing for unvaccinated staff with improving a negative result before they could occupy the building. And then the third one was excluding students or teachers for a period of time if they'd had close contact with somebody who had COVID. Her ruling was that the governor shouldn't be enforcing these because they violated a statute called the Illinois Department of Public Health Act, and that spells out a procedure for quarantining. And her interpretation was that these rules had to do with some way, shape, or form of quarantining under that statute. And the governor had issued, and the state had issued temporary rules which attempted to clarify that exclusion from school is not quarantine. Quarantining is when they were saying is when you're ordered to stay in your house and you have to stay there and you need a court order for that. Whereas the issue of whether you have to wear a mask, whether you should be excluded from school but not other things, is truly a quarantine. So that's the issue.
Okay.
And it's a statutory issue. They've raised other constitutional issues. Those we haven't even gotten to those yet.
Right.
I mean, there's so many.
There was due process, right? There was-
But it was statutory due process.
Okay.
He kept saying, because that statute that I talked about has a process before somebody can be quarantined. Okay, which involves going in front of a local court.
Okay.
Getting an order. So the governor's arguing, no, that applies to when you have a true quarantine, when somebody's told they can't leave the house. But the judge said, no, the statute has been interpreted to mean a quarantine more broadly than that. And that the governor couldn't, by emergency rules, modify that.
Okay.
So that is the issue that's up in the appellate court right now. But because of that order, the effect of that is that because the governor was part of that in the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Health, that means that they're currently enjoined from enforcing these three orders against school districts. It also enjoined the school districts that are, the 140 school districts that are in that lawsuit from enforcing it at the local level.
Right.
So that means every other school district in the state, it returns to them that they have the power to either use these rules or don't use these rules, use some of these, not some of these. They are not currently prohibited. Eventually, they might be prohibited or they might be required.
Okay.
But right now, we're in between, where there's local discretion by local school districts that weren't party to the lawsuit to impose the rule that they think is appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. So, I also want to point out that this district has followed the model policy from the Illinois Association of School Boards, which talks about a pandemic plan that the superintendent develops and implements. Obviously, the superintendent works under the guidance and direction of the board, but that gives them flexibility then. So talk about the federal mandate with regard to masking on the buses. That is a rule, it's an emergency rule of the Centers of Disease Control, the CDC. It does apply to school buses. That's on their website, clearly says that. There's no current court order that affects the legality of that statute, of that rule. And remember, it's a federal rule, so the judge in Illinois was ruling on a question of state law. Federal law is the federal law. So right now, all the schools all the school districts, and then frankly every other bus of public transportation has this masking requirement. Okay.
I have a question.
So
I'm sorry. We can't. I'm sorry.
No,
This is a closed public meeting. I need point of order. I'm sorry.
It says it in the website.
I understand that. You're going to have to be removed if you cannot stay with point of order. This is a public meeting, okay? We have to follow Robert's rules, and that is allowing people to speak. We had public comment time, okay? Thank you.
And I think if you go to the website and if you look at the order, it applies to modes of public transportation, and that is interpreted to include school buses. So the consequences is an issue for any school district with regard to these rules. And besides, the state has enforcement powers that would include non-recognition. Right now, that's not an issue because the state rules cannot be enforced under that court order. If that changes, then we'll go back to where we were. Okay, but as it stands right now, the state cannot enforce that because there's a short-term order saying they can't. The law with regard to tort liability is that if a district exercises its discretion, it's not supposed to be liable for that, okay? However, if there is a safety rule, and this is a general rule of tort liability, if there's a safety rule that applies to a person and it's not that they fail to apply it accidentally, that's mere negligence, okay? We're all subject to being sued if we're merely negligent. But a school district is only liable if it's grossly negligent, or sometimes it's said willful and wanton. So if there is a safety rule which applies to the school district and it consciously doesn't follow that rule, that can reach that standard. So then the issue is with regard to safety rules which apply to the district, if they don't do that and if somebody contracts or is injured as a result of that, and that applied to any safety rule, our rules with regard to access and things like that. But for instance, with regard to COVID, if there's a rule that applies and if the district chooses not to do it, there's a great risk of liability for that. And I would also point out that at the very beginning of the pandemic, the insurance companies that insure school districts against liability all came out very clearly and said, guess what, folks, this is on you. You're not covered for injuries related to COVID, persons getting COVID. So that's why it's very important for the district in the exercise of to know what is its discretion and know what is not its discretion. Because if you're making a policy judgment, that's what you're elected to do. Make policy judgments that you think are fit. And you can be, as long as you're reasonable about that, right or wrong, okay? The problem is if there's a safety rule that applies to you, you're best to follow that rule as long as it applies to you because it can create liability and you don't have the safety net of an insurance policy to cover it.
Just for a point of clarity, so if language was that the masks were recommended on the bus, does that show any discretion with that rule that would limit the consequences there, or does that not matter?
If we purposely impose a policy that says masks are not required, they're merely recommended, then we would not be in compliance with the federal mandate. Okay. If there are instances where if we say, no, you have to wear a mask, but some child is not wearing a mask, the driver doesn't notice it, and as a result, some student contract, that's mere negligence, okay? I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay.
But if we consciously make a decision as a district that we're not going to follow the federal mandate, that's what I would be concerned.
Understood. Okay.
So what you're saying is pretty much we're back where we were before, when we had originally said, okay, we're doing mask optional, and then they came out with the mandate. If the appeal holds it up and the mandate gets switched back, we have all the same consequences.
Yeah, I mean, so let me talk about what the appellate court might do. And the longer the appellate court waits to do something, the more I think that they might see something more substantive. I thought, I showed you what I know, but I thought they would come out with a ruling very quickly and either say, we're going to stay it or we're not going to stay it, okay, without explaining themselves, because they don't have to. This is a temporary order. And if they had said, we're going to stay, they're going to put on hold the judge's order, then we would have been back to the way that we were the Friday morning of the 4th when we had to comply with the state. If they said, no, we're not going to stay it, then we would be where we are right now, where we have that discretion. If, however, the appellate court, and this is the 4th district, we're not in the 4th district, we're in the 3rd district here. However, Illinois technically has one appellate court sitting in 5 different districts. So a substantive ruling by the 4th district would control our local courts unless it goes up to appeal locally. So it wouldn't be a binding decision in the sense that we're not parties to that case, but we would understand that our local courts would have to recognize it. So if the appellate court says, you know what, you've brought the substantive issues before us, we are going to make an announcement explaining why the judge was right or why the judge was wrong in Sangamon County. If that happens, then we got to take a look at what they say a little bit more closely. But if they say this is a temporary ruling, all we're going to do is say yay or nay to the TRO, then we'll either be where we are right now or we'll be where we'll be a week and a half ago.
And then how long is due process if we keep our mask recommended in place? Like, would we be in jeopardy of losing
If the masks are only
recognition?
recommended, that's within your discretion right now.
And then, but you know how there's due process now that they can't simply revoke your recognition immediately? There's due process involved. How long is that?
Well, right now they can't go through that.
Right, but if they did say that they could.
Yeah, it's a process that takes, I don't know, a couple months, I think.
Okay,
but-
all right.
Summer.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
So with all of that, that brings us back to the conversation we have at hand. So when the TRO came out, I reached out to Mr. Izzo and said, what are we allowed to do? Because I know people are questioning, why did we just remove one and not everything? Because the TRO says everything. Well, as Mr. Izzo has pointed out, we are not part of the 146.
Right.
So, under his guidance, I reported to you that we are allowed to go back to the opening plan that we had prior to the mandate. So if you remember, in August, we had a formal board vote that included mandating of the masks. And this board approved a reopening plan that included a mask mandate under that mandate, or under the governor. Well, ISB, I say governor. The governor is not mandating us, ISB is mandating us.
And they are not talking right now.
Correct.
Yes.
Which I could include, but I'm going to be professional in that regard. So, according to Mr. Izzo, the last reopening plan we had, which was under the discretion of ISB to the superintendent, myself, included all of the mitigations and masks recommended, not required. So we were allowed at that time to remove the requirement and go to the recommendation. So that's why we sit here where we are right now. Because in July, prior to the mandate, it was announced to the public that it was recommended, not required. So now, what we have in front of you are multiple action items. So the reason these action items are in front of you now is, as Mr. Izzo said, sooner or later, that appellate court is going to have a decision. And so I'm going to allow the elected officials of our system to tell me what you would like to see done with our students on all mitigations. Whether you'd like to overturn what we decided back in July and August, or if you want to continue moving forward with it.
One of my things that I'd like to bring up on item number 5 of masks on the bus. Our wonderful school bus drivers, they need to drive our bus safely, first and foremost. They do their best to make sure that discipline is, people are in their seats and everything. And if anybody's ever rode on a school bus, it is a big headache. I'm curious. I don't want to put anything more on our school bus drivers. That is my main concern right now, and I don't believe that it is up to them at this point to police who is coming on with a mask or not. I understand where we are with the mandate of that and repercussions, but our school bus drivers don't need anything more on their shoulders right now. So that's just something that I've been thinking about.
However, as you heard Mr. Izzo, that puts us in a liable position
I know.
if we don't
Which is not.
at
being
least declare it.
fiscally
Yes. Yes.
And we can't consciously make a decision to put our district money and finances in liability.
Yeah. And I see that too.
Mr. Izzo, this temporary,
I'm sorry, if you need a discussion, you can go out to the hall, please.
is there an expiration date on this, or the appellate court can take as long as they
No, the temporary
choose?
restraining order only lasts, I believe, trying to remember if it's 30 days or not, but I believe we're going to probably have a ruling on that, I would say by the end of the week.
Okay, the end of this week.
By the end
Okay.
of this week, I think.
Okay.
So what are we deciding? Like, what can we decide? Are we just deciding worst case scenario, they say we have to go back to normal and we're not going to follow that and we're going to put ourselves in legal trouble?
So, great question. So in front of you, and Ms. Pappas will work her way through them,
Yep.
are the options for each one of the mitigations. First, starting out, if the appellate court upholds the merit of the ruling, that all mitigations be dropped, and then from there on out, she'll go through and have other action items.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo, are you aware of any current lawsuit or case against a school in regard to liability in terms of masking optional versus required?
I mean, because a student.
Yes.
No, I'm not aware of any current such thing.
Are you aware of any with the busing?
I'm not aware of any of the bus.
Mr. Izzo, you are our legal counsel, and I think we have mandates here. I think people have decisions here, and I can make a decision, but I ask you, sir, to not guide us into making a decision, but where do you think, if you see our action items, do you think that there's a liability there?
Well, as I said, I believe the mask on the bus is the one thing that you currently have a mandate. Even that one is a temporary rule. That could change, okay? It will change eventually. It will, okay? I don't know when it will. But as we sit here tonight, there is a federal legal mandate that you require masks on school buses, okay? There is not, as we sit here, a legal mandate that the school district do any of those other things.
Gotcha.
You have the power to do that. And if the lawsuit in Springfield now turns out the way the plaintiffs want, you won't even have the power to do that. But as we sit here tonight, you have the option on 1 through 4.
Okay. So what, if there are no questions specifically, what I'd like to do is run through what the motion is. And then if you have questions then, after the motion is stated, we can talk then, or we would second and vote. Is that okay? Okay. The first one, I need a motion to approve all mitigations to be removed should the appellate court uphold the merit of the circuit court ruling. So if he's saying that, he's gonna say that, yes, it's basically agreeing and we will do away with all of it.
Saying they withhold, the appellate court holds it, we're gonna get rid of the mitigations.
Yeah.
I'll move.
Hold it on the merits. I mean, I think that's the important thing, because I think the appellate courts could simply say, we're not getting the merits. We're just, because there are other factors that go into, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but it's a temporary order, and there's other policy decisions on whether you should grant a temporary order or not, okay? But as I understood, the question was, if the appellate court addresses the merits of the claims and says that the circuit court judge was correct, then we would lift all of the current COVID, these particular COVID restrictions.
Okay.
And is that only until it expires? Like you said, what happens if in 30 days that temporary restraining order expires, but there's still the governor mandate?
We would default to your guys' decisions on options 2 through 5.
Yes.
And would that put us in liability?
No, because you're exercising your
I'm
discretion.
just making sure.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Absolutely.
And that's why I was
Because
trying.
we've been threatened to be sued by both sides, like the people that don't want masks and the people that do want masks.
And
So
let me say, anybody can sue. and it's complex, and you never know what the results are gonna be. My advice to you is to understand that if you're making a policy judgment on something that you have the power to make a policy judgment on, you should be protected by the Tort Immunity Act from exercising your discretion, from mere negligence, okay?
Okay, so.
So in clear layman's terms.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just reiterate this.
So everyone understands.
This half of the room needs layman's terms, okay?
So if the appellate court says the TRO is to move on, that they're upholding that.
The decision.
The decision is up to local boards, and local boards can make the decisions about masking.
I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you there.
Okay.
No, that's not true.
That's why I clarified, just have said on the merits. If the appellate court agrees with the circuit court on the merits, then we would remove everything, because then you have an appellate court ruling that no district should do these things, okay? Different than the appellate court simply saying, we'll let the TRO stand and not get to the legal issues of why.
We won't get involved,
Right.
basically. So basically, Brandy, number one is saying we're gonna be in agreement with the appellate court. If they agree with Sangamon County,
Then
that
that's
everything
all
should be upheld and all bets are off, we are in agreement. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To everybody? Okay. I had to read it like 5, 6 times
I
to
know.
to understand
It was
it.
very,
I just
it was
wanna
very
make
written,
sure.
it was written.
It's
very
written
well.
funky, yes.
Do I have a second?
Who was the first?
Well, I thought Ron did, yes.
Yeah, Ron did.
Yeah.
Second.
I'm sorry, who did the motion?
Ron
Ron.
first.
And Ashley.
Okay, roll call. Hernandez?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Pappas?
Yes.
Hallmeyer?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Belt?
Yes.
Missouri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now, this next motion would be to approve the Beecher School District 200U to be masked recommended for the remainder of the school year. So,
Required or recommended?
This is required.
Required.
it should be recommended.
Well, no,
Correct.
you have it required.
Okay,
Either way.
Yes.
Either way you
It's
guys
the
make a
motion that
motion,
states.
just make sure before you do a vote, everybody's on the same page exactly what
Yes.
your vote
Worded right.
means.
okay.
So whether you say recommended or required,
Please make sure that it says recommended, so, because the required was more confusing, I feel.
But you have it listed here
As
to be
required.
masked required.
So,
So are you amending that?
yes, that's what I'm saying.
You're
It's
amending
amended,
that?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So I wanted to be very clear with this motion, because what we're saying here is that we are all agreeing that we will keep it recommended. And this is also based off of if the ruling goes different ways,
I'd
is that
say,
correct?
Well, if the appellate court says no, the TRO should not have issued, and we're back to the state mandate. So I guess I would suggest that the motion be reworded to say masks recommended unless otherwise ordered.
True.
so I believe the spirit of this action is if the appellate court overturns the TRO.
Yeah.
In other words, this is going back to, if you want to, the August board meeting, when we said masks are required. Now we are saying, no, they're recommended. No matter what the appellate court says, this is your act, this is how I'm going to interpret your action item. Because when the appellate court judge comes out, we're not going to keep yo-yoing with kids. We need to know one way or another. So what I need to know from U7 is, despite what the appellate court judge says, Beecher 200U would be required or recommended?
Julie's saying recommended.
Recommended for the rest of the year. So if you say yes, from today to when kids are out of our building on June 4th, it's recommended, not required. If you say no, then we have to wait for the appellate court hearing, and if he overturns it, we go back to the mask mandate.
Do we have the, like, can we do that? I mean, because
Yes.
we had it in July, and that's what we were all done how to do. And then in August, we were told we can't. So you're telling if they're
You
going
always
back
have
and
that
voting, we're
right.
back to where we were in August. So
You always have a right to make a decision.
So
There are consequences to decisions, but
Okay,
you're always
what are
welcome
the
to.
consequences?
So in August, we went back to it. We are guided by ISBE. ISBE put a mandate in place, which
is still in place right now. We just
no,
have a temporary
ISBE does
change.
not have anything in place right now, and they have yet to say anything about either side of this ruling. They have been very quiet on all fronts. And as I
So
said before,
when
I'm
did
very-
that change from August? Like, if
So when the
ISB
TR
doesn't have anything, then when did that change? and why
So
did
when
we
the
stop that
TRO
then?
came into place and said that the ISBE governor and IDPH do not have the authority to implement the mitigations, ISBE had to step back, as did the governor, with those items. So again, we've always been governed by ISBE. If you went to St. Anne Elementary, they have never had masks on the entire year. They were mask optional from day one. So the ramifications for that district was always, they could have a probation period put on them, they could have a revocation of status, they could lose state funding. If you go back to August, that was my big concern, when you have a $1.8 million deficit, and the state can come out and take another $2.1 million from you.
So that's what we're saying. If they overturn it, we're saying we're taking that risk.
Correct, and I'm not
Can
a
you
betting
explain
man.
the steps of due process and
So
everything?
what happens is, they have to provide you a probationary letter saying that you are no longer, you are not following a requirement by ISBE, your governing body. You have, I believe, 60 days to comply. You have 60 days to comply. And if you don't, then they start the process on the status. By the time they get through all of that and say you are no longer recognized by ISBE, you're well into June, we're in the summer, and so the June 5th, I go, we understand our mistake, we follow your rules, and it's summer.
They can't backdate, because, you know, the consequences we talked
No.
about in August were
No.
the diplomas were worthless,
No.
or take away our funding.
No, because
They can't do it that way.
anything from when that TRO
That's
took
what we've
place
learned.
until whenever the appellate judge makes a decision, if he overturns it, that they had no authority during that time, so they can't go back and say, well, they can't.
But if
So-
they end up working super fast and come to us May 1st and say, you have to do it or we pull your funding, then May 1st, we have to
You
initial.
If
You
you
still
want
have
my-
60 days to comply.
And if you want my professional opinion, there are over 270 schools who are in the same boat. ISBE, they're not coming after schools.
So I just want to say though,
He's the lawyer though.
Yeah, yeah.
well, everything I said about masking in the buses, that would then apply to masking in the schools. If the appellate court reverses what Sangamon County judge did.
So if somebody got COVID and
If
they
somebody
said
got
they got it at
COVID and then
school,
say, school district, it's your fault because you had a safety rule and you didn't comply with it, therefore you have to pay the medical expenses.
and the
for this thing.
insurance is already said, we're not covering you. So
They're not
that's
covered.
coming out of our reserves.
Yes.
Potentially, yes.
And Mr. Izzo would have to defend us and say, no, you didn't catch it on the bus, you got it somewhere
There you
else.
go. I'm willing to do that.
Now, this is something that I want to, the kids, and this is what I'm thinking of with this motion. If we were going to keep them mask recommended, then I don't think that at this juncture, with everything, the staff, the kids, everybody has been through, I don't think that, I think that we would go, I think we should keep recommended. We already recommended it. It would be wrong to go back and do this and say, oh, you gotta put it back on, honey. Because I feel that that makes them the pawn. And I feel that.
But that's not, our job is not feelings.
I understand
Our job is
that.
Our budget, or we are on this board to make sure that we
but
have
hold
a
on,
school in the
please.
future.
I understand that. However, knowing the timeline that is included here with the due process and recognition and everything else, I think that we should recommend that we stay without. Because at this point, if the government, if the courts, if Pritzker can't get it together, then we will make that decision.
I have to tend to agree. I think it was with, one of the parents that, it's hard. It's this wishy-washy, this back and forth with the kids. My kids are older. they understand. But, you know, I feel for those who have young kids who don't understand, like, why can my friend Billy wear a mask, you know, why can he not have a mask? It's very hard for these kids to understand the, you know, the issue. And I that was one thing I did express, that whatever decision we make, we have to make the decision so it's not, we're not confusing our kids or making it harder on, you know, on them.
So why are we not, we already recommended but optional, so why is that not here tonight?
That's what that is.
Yeah. That's what number 2.
That's number 2.
Correct. It says action to approve Beecher School District 200U to be masked, recommended, the remainder of the school year. Recommended, but optional, because that's how it was sent out. So I don't see that in there.
Unless the TRO is overturned.
But it's not, still not in there. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
with this, it would just be that it would be mask recommended for the rest of the year.
That means it's optional, but recommend what it means.
That means it's
Yes.
But the
That
option
means
though makes it tell, see, I believe in choice. So if the parent wants to not send their kid with a mask, that's fine. But when you say optional, then you're saying, Mr. Gaham and myself say, I don't want to wear a mask, but he does. But there's optional in there. So that gives the parent the right to say, you know, little John or little Emma, you're going to wear a
I think
mask.
you need recommended for legality.
So, but optional, because we already
That's what it
sent it out.
means, recommend, we recommend it, but you can do whatever you
Yes.
want.
Yes.
But that, I mean, that's my only, like, I'm all for not wearing masks. But there's other schools where I work, I have to wear a mask the whole time. Like, they never went with the restraining order, but you gotta think worst case scenario, man.
But if it's overturned and it becomes mandatory, we're doing the same thing.
We automatically revert back, so you're going to, now your kids are still going to be just as confused.
Yeah. Again, this would uphold it staying recommended.
So are we,
The motion says it doesn't matter what the appellate court.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
I'm just saying
That we're
that's-
keeping it
that's the
recommended
motion.
regardless.
Right, we're doing this for the rest of the year,
Yeah.
whatever we vote on.
Yeah.
So I would say our kids are worth the risk. I say that we leave the recommended in there, let the parents choose, and we stop damaging these children.
Thank you.
Okay.
the letters we got from the parents that were all about they want them out here. I mean, you can't just think about the ones that are here. I mean, most of the letters we got were from people that were very upset that we took the mask away and we're endangering
And
their
that-
children.
And that's where they wear the mask.
I mean, because like, my kids aren't wearing a mask. I mean, I'm all for not doing the mask, but you have to think of everyone, and my big thing is the liability. If we're not covered in insurance.
And you're trying to do an in-run around the court, just as the complaint was that the governor did an end around and tried to get away with something that was...
I understand. So with the 270 schools, is there any way that we could make this motion to say this and then say the first 100, start, like could we amend this later? If for an emergency purpose we needed to.
You can always change it.
Yeah, we could always change it.
It's your policies.
Okay.
Your policy, you can change it.
March, April, May roll around and you want to
I
bring
mean,
this
if
back
there's
up?
like an Omicron times 3, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't know what has happened in the last 2 years, and it's hard to predict anything. But I know that the rest of the school year, right now, it is feeling more normal than it ever has. If there's no questions about the motion, if somebody wants to make the motion to approve Beecher School District 200U to be mask recommended for the remainder of the school year, please make the motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Pappas?
Yes.
Herman?
No.
Paulmeyer? No. Flores?
Yes.
Belt?
No, legally, no.
Mazurik?
Yes.
And Hernandez?
Yes.
Okay, 4-3. Motion carried.
Our next item is for quarantine of contacts. The motion reads, motion to approve Beecher School District 200U to require close contacts to follow the quarantine guidelines set forth by the Illinois Department of Public Health. Discussion.
What are they currently now? 5 days, right?
So right now, so close contacts right now are permitted a test to stay. If the parent chooses the test to stay, they obviously are in school, they're tested the day of, we're aware of it, and they're tested on the 5th day,
5 to 7, depending when.
5 to 7, and then they are masked from 6 to 10 per IDPH guidelines. If a student or a family chooses not to do this test to stay, and they are close contact, they take the 5 days, and then they return masked on the 6th day. If the student chooses not to wear a mask on days 6 through 10, they have the full 10 days. So that was what was written out in the document I sent to the families on Monday. So what this document, or what this motion says is, if you vote, so again, the word, if I say yes, it's going to have a negative connotation. If I tell you, if you vote yes to this, which means you are requiring close contacts, what I just explained to you continues. If you vote no, what will then happen is we will no longer require close contacts to quarantine or test to stay. However, we would still notify them that they are close contacts, and we would ask the families to monitor their health and provide them optional testing. So, again, what we do right now is you are test to stay, or you're quarantined 5 days, and then masked. That's what currently sits. So if you vote yes, that's what stays.
What would be the ramifications of not following the Illinois Department of Public Health legally?
Okay, like the other ones, right now you have the option.
Yeah, worst case scenario, everything goes back.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said with the other requirements, that the state cannot impose that mandate right now because of the TRO. But you were the party, so you have the choice to impose it yourself. That's the rule you've got now. Do you want the status quo, or do you want to lift that order?
And once again, if it gets revoked, then we're open up to lawsuits. Because we're not following the public health department.
Yeah, well, but it's right now, you're not legally required to follow it.
Okay.
So you should be okay.
In talking with IDPH and talking to Angie, we have a little bit more flexibility with this one, because we're going to continue to tell families, hey, you were a close contact, please monitor your child, but you can still come to school and we'll option you to test. That's where this has a little more flexibility on our end, because again, we're still notifying families that they are contacts where we're keeping them in school.
So if we feel that way, it would be a no there.
If you would like to go to that option,
Yeah.
correct, it would be a
Okay.
no. So the contact would simply be, hey, Mr. Missouri, your son was a contact at school today, please monitor their health. We have Binax testing if you'd like to have them tested.
Okay. Any questions? So I need the motion. Would you like me to repeat? I'll repeat it. I need a motion to approve Beecher School District 200U to require close contacts to follow the quarantine guidelines set forth by the Illinois Department of Public Health. So if you would like this to be approved, then you would motion to approve in second. If nobody wishes to motion, then it dies.
Currently, we don't have a big problem with people arguing about the quarantine, is that correct?
For the most part, no. We obviously over the last week, we've adjusted the process a little bit. We get a little bit of, hey, you said masks were optional. I'm not sending my kid with a mask on the 6th day. But the difference is this is more guidance from the IDPH than, because you have an option B. Your option B is if you don't want to do the mask on days 6 through 10, you're welcome to stay home for those days. And we continue to offer that test. So the big thing obviously for the community is the masking, and then from there, as the mitigations come by.
But if we're not masking, then it has to be 6 feet, so there are going to be more quarantines if you have a positive.
So again, the amount of students quarantined right now is going to be similar because we are allowing the test and stay. And I would say most families, when we offer the test to stay, they're 100%, well, I shouldn't say, they're very supportive of the school, especially Angie and Lindsay. Yeah, go ahead and test them. And then they move forward with it.
I would move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Belt,
Yes.
Pappas,
No.
Paulmeyer,
Yes.
Flores,
No.
Missouri,
No.
Hernandez,
Yes.
and Herman.
Yes.
4-3. Yes.
Okay. The next motion is motion to approve Beecher School District 200 year to require staff to be vaccinated or provide a weekly test if not. Weekly negative test if not.
That's what we're doing now.
That is currently what is going on, that if you're not vaccinated, you provide a weekly negative. Are the tests provided here?
100%.
Okay.
Yep, we get 80, between 40 and 80 tests per week. That helps us with the test to stay and the testing of staff members who are unvaccinated.
And we just don't have a motion if we don't want it.
Right.
We don't need to have a motion to stop doing it. This is like, if we don't do it,
So there hasn't actually been a formal motion put out there. You
Yeah, I
guys
just
can-
read
you
the
can
motion.
You can, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Then you, if you don't want this to happen, I believe you need to have a secondary motion to stop it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a motion now to continue it, it stays status quo. If you would then need to make a motion to stop the practice to actually have it to stop.
I would like the motion to stop it. To stop the,
So before we move that, we have to see if there's a second to what currently, you have a motion out there to continue it.
Well, I read the motion.
Okay, you've read the motion.
Yeah.
So it has to be.
Nobody had motioned that. I just read it.
Okay.
So, does anybody want to motion, or take that motion that I read first?
First of all, what has our unions,
So it's a very, very, very small amount of staff who actually are in this boat. I've talked to them in particular. The union's big concern is more about the masking, to make sure they follow with that. The people who have to test weekly don't like it. I mean, I wouldn't like having something jammed in my nose every week either. But it's one of those, I mean, it's not one of those things they're gonna come out and say, we quit.
yeah.
But, I mean, they've also said, you know, I've made a choice, and yet we're still being required under our choice to do something about that. So, Larry, I know I didn't give you a great answer. This has not been a topic that the union has brought, and I met with the union and the executive board both last week, and it is not something that they brought to my attention that, hey, you need to bring this to the board immediately. But in my conversations with staff who I know personally through this, they don't like it.
So even if they are in the 90 days after actually having it, they still have to test every week?
No.
No? So if it's in the 90, they don't have
Got
to?
your immunities, and
Okay.
then you gotta start back after you
Okay.
don't have.
I think that's the whole scary part about this whole thing. I could be sitting here feeling fine and be positive, and no one would ever know.
Well, the part is now they say you can get it even if you are vaccinated, so I never understood, just because they're not vaccinated, why do they have to get tested? I mean, you would think
Yeah,
everybody
right.
would be tested then, because everybody's supposedly now on the same playing field.
well, because you're more
Yeah.
likely to.
So if we move this out and get a second on it, it's either yes or no.
Yes,
Right.
so,
Right.
first of all,
It
is
either
there?
stands as it is, or
Yes. Is there a motion to approve them to be required to vaccinate or weekly negative?
you know, it's a hard call. It's, I don't agree with, it's certainly an invasion somewhat of your rights. However, it is a safety factor for all the students they come in contact with. I would move it, leave it as it is.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Let's roll with this.
All right.
Come on.
Roll call.
Okay. Missouri,
No.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas,
Yes.
Hallmeyer. Yes. Flores,
No.
Belt.
No, we're all over the place, you guys.
Right?
4-3 yes.
Okay. All right, so the next one is The masks on bus. The motion is motion to approve that masks will continue to be required on school transportation. Do I have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
So again, just so everybody knows, if you say, it says required. So if you say yes, you're continuing to require students who get on the bus to wear a mask. If you say no, then it becomes optional, and you're basically in the same boat you were with your action item 2. The difference is, as Mr. Izzo will point out, this still is a mandate on the federal level, but the consequences at the end of the day, if the circuit court overturns it, or appellate court overturns it, you're in the same boat.
Could I, is there any way I could amend it to say how we affected,
Yeah.
how we amended number 2 and change required to recommended? Could we do that? Motion to approve that masks will continue to be recommended on school transportation, or will?
No motion has been made, Madam President. You
No,
can make any
read it
motion
as-
you would like.
Well, we did motion.
No,
Yeah,
again.
and I second.
She read.
You already second?
Yeah, you already.
Okay, all right, then we gotta go through.
Sorry.
Roll call.
I apologize.
No
I
problem.
was too busy in my own world.
Okay, roll call. Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Missouri.
No.
Hernandez.
No.
Herman.
Yes.
Pappas.
No.
And Palmer.
I'm not messing with the feds, yes.
Okay, 4-3.
Then why did you even vote on it?
Please.
If it's a federal
Melanie,
mandate
I'm
or a
sorry.
state law, or whatever you have to say, then why did you
Officer
vote
Beck,
on it?
can you please escort her out? I'm sorry.
Oh, put me in the handcuffs, Madam Board President.
I'm sorry, we need to have point of order. But thank you. I'm so glad to be in this
And you don't care
position.
about the kids, you care about saving your own assholes.
Man, we don't get paid enough. Okay. Moving on. We are in the employment. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Scott Dute as full-time custodian. Okay, so we had Juan and then Ron. Let's do that.
Pick who you want.
Just
Either way.
Okay,
you
Belt?
allow them to exit
Yeah.
for volume's
Just
sake.
hold on for a roll call, please.
That way Marla can hear that
Sorry.
people are, it's all right, people are just that's fine. Just want to make sure that Marla can hear the call.
Let's. Can we take a recess? Can we do that?
No. We'll be executive session. So you're
Okay.
We're gonna be in executive session
In
soon.
5 minutes.
All right. Moving on. Juan was the motion, Ron was the second.
That's correct.
Thanks for the
Yes.
rhyme.
All right, roll call. Belt.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Pappas.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
And Flores.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to accept the resignation of Julie Buzich as full-time custodian.
So moved.
Second.
Was that Herman? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, roll call. Missouri.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Pappas.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
And Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Can I have a motion to approve the employment of Jesse Nagel as junior high school track and field assistant coach?
So moved.
Second?
Pappas.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
And Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the employment of Debbie Rojas as junior high school soccer co-coach.
So moved.
Second.
Palmer.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
And Pappas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the employment of Tyler Duran as junior high school soccer co-coach.
So moved.
Second.
Palmer.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
And Pappas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the employment of David Smolson as high school girls track coach.
So moved.
Second.
Flores,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas,
Yes.
Pallmeyer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the employment of David Smolson as high school boys track coach. He was boys and girls.
Yes. So moved.
Glutton for punishment.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
Second, Brandy or me, if it doesn't matter.
Brandy
We said the
is?
same time.
Sure, Randy.
Okay. Belt,
Yes.
Mazurik,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas,
Yes.
Pallmeyer,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Motion carried.
So we can still make this motion if we have the full approval. This is for a volunteer position. So is there a motion to accept Dominic Gazillo as a high school volunteer baseball coach?
So moved.
Madam President, just for clarification, I've asked Marla, that's what I asked her back there. We've actually never had volunteer coaches because they're not paid to
Right.
provide a resume. So the fact there was
Yes.
one in your packet that's why.
Okay.
So it's past
So
practice.
for this. we
Right, and
only
Tyler
have-
is being paid.
I saw
Mr.
that,
Jurgens.
yes.
Just be
Okay.
familiar, Dominic is a student, prior student.
But for this, like, have, kind of what Mike was saying, is this is just saying, yes, we approved them to start the process. Like, we don't have background check, we don't have fingerprints yet on them, so this is.
Correct.
Right.
They
So
still,
why
they
would-
still have to get through.
Okay.
So why would we approve
So we're-
something if we don't have a
we're approving
background
them
check on
Because
them?
they can't
Pending
start.
their background, right?
And
It's up to the
this is
superintendent.
one of those things where, we approve them and then they follow through. And of course, if the background check, they wouldn't be like, oh, it's okay, wink, wink.
Right, that's what I wanted to make sure, like,
Okay.
if stuff wasn't kosher, we didn't just already approve it, like, pending the
Yes.
outcome of their.
He can't participate until his background check.
Got it.
Fingerprint.
Yep. Yep. So do I have a motion?
Just making sure.
Did I have a motion? Ron?
Ron had
Is
the
there a
motion.
second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mazurik,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas.
Yes.
Pallmeyer,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And I need a motion to accept Brian Johnson as a high school volunteer. I thought it was a tennis coach. Yep, it says,
Yeah.
it says
Tennis.
baseball, it's fine. As a high school volunteer tennis coach.
So moved.
Second?
We're starting.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Pappas,
Yes.
Pallmeyer,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
and Mazurik.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Similar to a student we had who just graduated last year, she was a Beecher swim team. Her dad was the coach. So what we're doing is allowing them to use our name to be part of the state competition.
Right, the girls swam it with the other schools and stuff. And then
Yep.
posted.
Yep.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the asbestos removal bid for the elementary building from Valor Technologies Incorporated of Bolingbrook, Illinois, in the amount of $147,850.
So moved.
Was this the low bid, or this was?
So this is the lowest acceptable bid. The other company did not,
Meet all the requirements.
correct. They
Not
didn't.
responsive.
There we go.
And when would this be starting, or?
Last day of school is now June 5th. They would start June 6th.
And it wouldn't mess with HVAC installer?
Nope, as a matter of fact, once we get the tile group in place, GRP has already talked, I've already talked to GRP and Jerry, we're gonna have a all construction meeting to make sure everything works. The nice thing about the asbestos and the HVAC is because this is room specific, they're allowed to cordon off, work, and then move on their way. So as they're moving, they can actually have the next company come right behind. So we'll have two groups working at the same time.
And will this mess with, if we're doing it in the summer, if we offer summer school?
So if we offered summer school at the elementary, we would relocate them to the junior high
Okay.
or the high school, wherever Ms. Black puts them.
Did I get a motion?
Yeah, motion and second.
Okay. Roll.
I have Mazurik, and the second is Hernandez.
Yep.
Okay,
Ryan won.
okay, so roll call. Herman,
Yes.
Pappas.
Yes.
Pallmeyer,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Mazurik,
Yes.
and Hernandez.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Real quick question on this next one. I know we're getting the bus in the summer '22, but we're paying for it in 2023. Am I reading that correct?
Yep. Yeah, because you don't pay for it until you get it, which also, after your action item, I have a secondary thing I need to direct you from the board on.
I thought it was a great deal, I thought maybe strong arm or something.
So I read.
I was bigger than the
That's
salesman.
future board problems. That's not current board problems, that's future board problems.
Okay. So I read, right? Motion to approve the purchase of a 2022 minibus from Midwest Transit Equipment Incorporated of Kankakee, Illinois, in the amount of $76,407 for summer 2022 delivery and expensed from the fiscal year 2023 budget.
So moved.
We would be able to get that,
Yes,
for sure?
that's what the salesman tells me. They actually have
Okay.
chassis.
Okay.
Apparently that's a thing.
Okay, roll call. I have Ron and Larry second. Okay, roll call Pappas.
Yes.
Hallmeyer.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Mazer.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
And Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, so
If I may, the other thing I need, and again, I wasn't gonna pull a transportation meeting, want no offense, just to ask you guys this question. So the other bus that you guys ordered last year in May or June, still hasn't even started to be constructed. They've told us it's probably gonna be available in April, but he can't promise me anything. And this is from Central States. So I had Scott look into it, and there's no ramifications for us telling him to go kickstand, because he can't promise me when it's gonna become available, and the fact that it's just sitting out there bothers me a lot. So with you, if you guys would allow me to, I would gladly tell Central States thanks, but no thanks. We're gonna move on from that.
Do we need another bigger bus, or is that something that can wait?
So this one's is a minibus. So this is a 32 passenger, the one they were last, 35 passenger. So Scott did reach out to Midwest to ask what they could do for us, because they do have the chassis, do everything else. And they said, obviously we could order a new bus from them, just like you guys just did at the next board meeting. Or they actually have three buses that were leased that all have less than 50,000 miles on that we could buy, and it'd be around 45,000. So it's about a $20,000 to $25,000 savings.
So we would have a transportation meeting to discuss what our recommendation would be for the next board meeting based on that.
I'm actually asking you guys now for it.
That's what he's
Well,
doing.
no, I mean as far as to purchase a new one. Like, we can say we don't want to do it, but do we need to have a committee meeting to make the choice for what
Not
to
if
do?
not
in the
if
meeting?
not if you
Not
guys
if
tell
we're
me
saying
now.
So say no to the old one.
So say no to the old one. And just for clarification, do I have guidance to say no to Central States moving forward with that bus that we ordered last year?
Yes.
Will do.
all right, so I need a motion to proceed to executive session.
One more thing.
Alrighty.
Do I have direction to used or
See,
new?
that's what I was wondering, do we have to have that in committee?
You can, but the committee's isn't gonna make it. What I'm saying is, you can do anything in committee, but you're bringing out some boards.
How much was the money, how much was spent on the new one that?
Nothing's been spent on it.
All right.
So
But
it was.
What was the
well, if you look on there,
Sorry, Ron.
$76,000.
It was gonna be.
What was approved for?
It was approved for 74?
This is a whole different.
Yeah. I
When you
know.
look at
That's
that,
what
when you
I'm
look at a
saying,
bus, let's take a look at a bus, we got our kids riding on it. So are we buying a used one? I mean, I know we can have it checked out, or you're buying a new one and you're gonna get longer out of it. So these are the questions I've had for a long time, because when you're buying used, it's not like buying anything.
the last couple big buses we bought one was a used one, right, Marla? The last big one we did,
Barely.
because with the COVID, they're just not
Barely,
getting
you said.
many years.
Barely.
I mean, wow.
I know he sent me a doggone email. Sorry.
My kids use cars.
You have Scott. Come on, Scott.
I mean, I would just think that would just need to be discussed a little more, like what's the mileage versus everything, and lay it out like we did last time, not just, yeah, let's do it willy-nilly, I mean.
Would you like to know the
I
mileage?
don't think Dr. Gaham does willy-nilly.
I do tomfoolery. All right, so there are three 2015 International 35-passenger minibuses that are obviously used because 2015. Mileage on them is 53,000, 52,000, and 68,000. The bus you did approve was 74,415 last year. The price on the 2015 would be 53,000, so you would save $21,000 by using it pre-owned.
Does it come with a warranty, or?
But you're also at a 2015, which is 7 years old.
7 years old
Yep.
now.
For the 20,000, I would just say get the new one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there gonna be a penalty if we say no to the?
No.
No, that's the thing I had
Just
Scott
making
look into,
sure.
yep.
Okay, just making
All
sure.
right, so I think what we would actually we might have to put a bid. There'll be a,
On the next
board meeting, I'll have a bus option for you guys to approve if you want to move forward with it. New from Midwest.
Okay.
Because we can take that 8-year bus, you know, or get a new one. We can go 2, 3, 4 years, or we can go 10 years. Some of the buses are 10 years out there.
Yep.
Okay. Can I get a motion to proceed to executive session to discuss negotiation and et cetera, et cetera?
So moved.
Second. Do we do roll on this?
Yes.
All right, it's been a while.
second, I'm sorry.
Belt?
Okay, Palmeyer?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Belt?
Yes.
Mazur?
Yes.
Hernandez? Herman?
Yes.
Pappas?
Yes. All right, we'll take a minute break here. We are back in regular session. Do we have any other items?
Yeah, real quick, I met with the Beecher Scholarship Committee. You know, they've been around for 60-plus years. Great, honorable people.
Yeah.
Really influential people in the community. And they have money to give away to our kids. $1,500, they raised it up
That's
for a
awesome.
4-year school.
Yeah.
$1,500 is a lot of money.
Yes, it
and a lot of
is.
people don't think so, but I
Yeah.
know it is. But,
There's a lot of prerequisites, though, that entail.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go that. And then there is, you got, but we'll leave Mr. Sarsi with that, because he was given that task to deal with it. But anybody knows any seniors, refer them over there. $1,500 is not, seems like not a lot.
So
but
they
it is.
contact them?
Yeah, they contact Mr. Sarsny.
Okay.
And if you're going to a 2-year school, a Prairie State or anybody like that, they're willing to give $750.
Oh,
And they
that's
got
awesome.
money, so
Awesome.
they're willing to give it away. So
And thank you for volunteering to
yes, it's
step up on
very-
that.
They're
We
very,
appreciate
very,
it.
very good people, honorable.
Awesome, thank you. Any items to mention for March 14th board meeting?
No.
Okay. Upcoming dates, anyone?
We did get an email just this afternoon from the Beecher Chamber
Okay.
dinner, which is the 21st, and I need to RSVP by the 18th. so-
For February 20?
February 21, yeah. It looks
February
like
20
next week.
21.
It's President's Day.
Not it.
It's Monday.
I can't do it.
RSVP by,
I mean, you saw the bills tonight, we pay membership, so it's free to one
so this
person.
isn't the like yearly dinner?
No, this is, they do like a monthly, but it's starting to come back.
At the community building, right?
More
At
so.
the community building?
Not it.
Yes, at the community.
I know, like, I don't know what it is.
Okay, we'll talk to you later then. All right.
Like Brandy's doing.
Right?
Your first one, Randy.
All right, I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great job, guys.
All right.
What time is it?